let's start with what is that societal expectation that I'm meeting and start to peel the layers back from there. It was actually, that was so buried. There was so many pieces of my identity that I had built that I didn't even realize, oh, this isn't lighting me up. And I think that's the piece.
Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle podcast, the place where expert-based business owners learn how to build momentum, avoid burnout, and create sustainable success on their own terms. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, strength and conditioning specialist turned founder and CEO of Prime Performance Coaching, the personal performance strategy firm for high-achieving business owners and operators. I partner with driven entrepreneurs to implement the Prime Performance process, an awareness-based operating system that's helped me and countless solopreneurs and small business owners evolve from just being high performers on the edge of burnout to prime performers building sustainable success. The impact of Prime Performance process has led me here, where I'll show you how to get unstuck and design your own Prime Performance life without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity. So whether you're hustling after hours or scaling your passion project, today and here you're going to get real stories, science-backed strategies, and practical frameworks to help you excel every step of your journey. It's time. Let's get intentional, build momentum, and become prime performers together. We'll get started just after this message. If you're an ambitious business owner or side hustler who's ready for a breakthrough, tired of spinning your wheels, looking to slide past burnout and build real momentum, I'd love to invite you to book a free Prime Performance strategy session with me or one of our strategists. This is your chance to get personalized insight on what's been holding you back and get a clear path to move forward. No fluff, just actionable strategy. So if you're interested, visit survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to request your spot now. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Looking forward to helping you become a prime performer. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. Today, we've got a great episode because today's guest is Megan Higney. She's the founder and CEO of Message, which is a footwear brand built on the belief that what we tell ourselves matters just as much as what we put out in the world. Megan's journey spans from private equity, and operating and scaling other founders' businesses, and ultimately taking the leap into building her own brand from the ground up. From living in the Bay Area to relocating her family to Mexico, she is fully committed to her vision. Megan is living the reality of entrepreneurship, not just reflecting it from the rearview mirror, but actively navigating it in real time. So Megan, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you. That was such a good introduction. I feel like you did better than I could have.
Well, connected, tried to take some notes the first time we chatted a little bit. So looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah, me too.
So when we spoke last, you were telling me that you began your career in private equity. You were, like I said in the intro there, you were backing founders instead of being one. So I want to take you back to what it was that first sparked the desire for you to sit on the other side of the table.
Yeah. I mean, I remember all the way back, I was like in my early 20s, right? When I started to invest in founder-run businesses. And I just remember sitting across from them, hearing their stories, and it was so much heart. And it was like the grit, and it felt like real life. And I think what I knew was what we were doing was easier in a way, right? Like, and I looked around at the people around me and they had really nice lives and they were making really good money. And it was like I could see the spark. I could see the light around these founders. And I was like, that's my energy. Like, it might be spicy, it might be on fire sometimes, but it's going to be bright, And so I think I was just pulled to it from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And that spark, that excitement. It's very intriguing. It can be scary at certain times, and it's energizing to say the least. But I want
That's what
to
I think it
go.
was. I saw the energy. They were on a different wavelength, even when they were talking about hard stuff or, we were grilling them from like our lens. It was like their frequency was up leveled because they were doing something from here,
Yeah,
That's what it
operating
was.
totally on a different level,
Yeah,
basically.
I think so.
So if I have this correct here, so after investing, you moved into an operating role, I believe, and eventually became the president of another founder's brand.
That's right.
What did that teach you that like the finance world, I guess, didn't or couldn't?
I mean, everything really. That was my first introduction to operations. So I had sat in many a boardroom. I had been behind the financials, building strategy for companies, but I had never been on the ground doing it. And that was sort of everything, right? It's like when founders or operators are looking to bring in investors into their business, it's like, I really respect the investors that kind of own, we don't do what you do. We do something very different. And that's the truth, right? So jumping over to the operating side, I got to put a lot of what I knew, the knowledge from the finance, the analytics, the markets, I got to put that in action, right? Where I was sort of arm's length removed from it as an investor.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And so when I was listening, connecting with you, and what I'm kind of hearing too is like message. It wasn't really like your first step. It was permission that you gave yourself. And what does that mean? And what made you finally say that like, okay, now is the time?
Yeah. Um, I mean, the truth is like I'm still living that decision, every day in a lot of ways because it was a big one. I mean, as you alluded in my introduction, I was living in the Bay. I was taking a salary, that allowed me to support my kids and my mortgage. And when I finally took the leap to do message, I kind of did the typical, maybe not typical, but common, like I straddled for a bit. I did some contract work so I could keep paying myself without having to, have the business do that. And when I ultimately took the leap, because I knew like this needs my full time love, that was scary. I mean, that literally ended up eventually upending my life in the Bay Area and took us to Mexico to lower my overhead. And that ended up being the biggest gift. And we're all so grateful for it. But in the moment, it was like, what am I doing? Like, and it was just all chips in for message, right? And so my journey to get there, I think, yeah, I really had to get my feet wet with these other founders. I think now in hindsight, I needed to build a level of empathy too for that founder role because it's a different world. I was right alongside of these founders and there was shit that bothered the hell out of me that now I'm like, I get it. It's just that, that founder twitch that you can't, it's just different when you birthed it. So I think I needed that experience. And I also ultimately needed some sort of a foundation, for my family to then be able to say, okay, I'm going to do this. Like this one's mine. But yeah, it ended up upending the foundation, putting all the chips in, coming over to Mexico. Like it's the whole thing, but I'm loving it and I keep choosing it every day. And I believe, and it's big.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking, we shared a little bit about like hard work, and we talked about how hard work often feels success, and even though that it might not always be the healthiest option. What do
Yeah.
you think? Like, what do you like? Talk to me
Yeah.
about that whole like idea and mindset, and kind of getting stuck there.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, like right now, I'm sitting in my bedroom. Like I work from my bed now sometimes for 10 hours in a day because just being in my bed makes me feel like I'm cozy and comfortable and I can take calls from my hoodie and in my robe. And it's like, that sounds silly, but it's kind of like it's kind of like what message represents. It's like actually ease for your body, comfort in your setting, in your situation. Like that's not nothing. That's kind of everything, because it sets the energy with which you're moving through whatever it is you're doing, you know, in your day and your work. So yeah, for the first, you know, it was such a process for me to take the leap and let myself do this. And we can unpack that even further, right? There was a lot of like trusting my, like allowing it to be as good as I really like couldn't fathom that it could be, which was me being able to do the thing I'd always dreamed of doing. Like just hitting up against that, like, oh, I can actually do that, was a huge leap. But then once I got there, you know what I did? I made it feel like the other thing. I like built out a big office. I had all my whiteboards. I was waking up in the morning, first thing, getting on the computer. I was working all day long. I can't come to my kids' thing because I'm so busy with work. It's like, what the? Like, how did I turn my dream and the thing I gave up everything for into how I was doing it when I was making a huge paycheck and like running someone else's business? It's just a mind F. And I think what it represents though is that a lot of us do, if we are likening worth to work, then of course we work hard because we want our worth to feel big, right? And once you figure out that it's actually kind of an inverse relationship, which is like, how can I step into this day with joy and ease and fun, is when it all starts moving so much faster. And I'm still figuring that out. But I mean, today versus even 6 months ago versus 2.5 years ago when we launched, it has allowed me to step into the freedom that my brand talks about as like a human in my being with my family. I would never miss a family dinner. I would never miss my kid's soccer game. And it was a total reorientation, because that was like before, I don't know, in my very short-sighted vision, I was doing what I was supposed to for my family. I was working my ass off, you know?
Yeah. And I want to kind of shape this question a little bit differently than what I was thinking of originally. So obviously in entrepreneurship, you've got to have the vision. Sometimes you've got to be almost delusional with it, and you got to have that faith that everything's going to kind of go through it. So that's kind of like the first step, is like, yeah, you have to have conviction, but then you have to explain it to your family and then your friends and your rest of your family. So what was that kind of like when you're like, all right, guess what? We're moving, and see you guys later. We're going to paradise, and see you next time.
Rob, honestly, I was just thinking about this. This is one of the hardest pieces. It continues to be one of the hardest pieces, because in the founder role, it's like you're hyper attuned to reading how the people around you who love you dearly respond to what it is that you're doing, right? Because you're like, your parents want you to be successful. They want you to be happy. They want you to be sleeping through the night. You know, your friends want that for you. And so out of the gate, there's this like groundswell of support and everything. You know, I've been at this for almost 5 years, because even though we've only been in market for just over 2, I was building this for a long time. Like the shoes, it took Portugal, the artisans, it took a long time. And so what was like enthusiasm then can be some trepidation when you're like, oh, you're moving to Mexico. Oh, you know, you're still not really taking much out of the business. Oh, you've put all your life savings into this. It's like, you can feel that. And even though they want to support you and they want to love you, the internal compass has to be so resolute in order to not waver just in bringing in what other people are not even meaning to put out, but they are putting it out. And I'm lucky because my partner is like the most solid. So he arguably has the biggest vested interest in more income, less stress. And he's like, he's rooted, but I feel it. I feel it a lot. And it's tricky. It's real. It's, you know, it's like very tenuous. How's message going? You know, like and so you just have to be like so clear in it and your biggest advocate, because Of course, of course they want it to be easier. And of course they don't necessarily get it because, we're crazy until we're geniuses, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Like you have to be so aligned and directed, but then also like you need to have that support system around you. So having your partner there to like lean on and ground you when the second guesses kind of do come in, because they're always going to pop up
Yeah.
in. It's one thing is something else, like, right? And the imposter phenomenon's real. Everyone goes through it, different stages, different times, multiple times even. And I know too from firsthand because I have a supplement line. So I remember when I first launched that, it was like, okay, I got to figure out the design for the labels. I got to make sure that it's up to code or whatever. I got to make sure shipping, the website, I got to buy the inventory too, because that's a huge thing that you have to do. How do you like, because that's another obstacle thrown in there, like the financial thing that you have,
Mhm.
the financial investment, because it's not like a lot of businesses now where you just quickly set up very low cost barrier entry. You got to actually have inventory and marketing and all this other stuff. How do you
Totally.
juggle those things?
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, I took a little bit of friends and family capital before I launched, um, which really more so allowed me to kind of get through launch. So allowed me the time that I spent to build it, the product, testing, the expertise that I brought in around it on all fronts, podiatry, product design, Portuguese supply chain, all of it. Once I hit launch, I was pretty much needing to make, to make enough money to pay for my overhead. Until I started financing inventory with a little bit of debt. But that's where, as a consumer business, and things can kind of, your working capital equation can get funky really fast. So it's tough because we actually grew really fast out of the gate, and that made it harder because I didn't have capital. I ran out of inventory. I had to make big inventory buys, but I didn't have the capital to do it. So I have to take debt. Then when I start making money and building cash, most of what I would be reinvesting in the business, I'm paying back the debt, So you're just like constantly, and there is a threshold, a lot of CPG brands, it's like 5 to 10 million as like an inventory business. You should start to be sitting pretty, but depending on your margin profile, but below that, you're fucking treading water. It's like I learned growth when we were crushing it felt as difficult as slower seasons when we weren't. It was like, it kind of was the great neutralizer. I felt like very Buddhist in a way. Oh, like that is not to be celebrated more than that is to be celebrated because it kind of all feels the same.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So I remember one of my mentors was telling me kind of like the rules of three. So it's like first dollar is easy, then new challenges, new levels, new devils come at $3. And then it's like, okay, from $3 to $10, and then
Mm-hmm.
$10 to $30, and then $30 to
Mm-hmm.
100. And that just scales up and up and up. And yeah, exactly as he said, it is like new levels bring on new devils. And I know I want to ask you, not from an operational standpoint, and
Yeah.
we've kind of talked about how kind of keeping yourself in grounded in things, but what do you think is the hardest internal challenge for yourself? It doesn't sound like it's vision. It doesn't sound like it's the support or stability. What do you think is that next challenge that you're going to have to overcome to get to the next level that you're climbing towards?
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say the most recent challenge that I think I overcame in these first like couple of years, first couple of million, I would say is I was very much, it's like we always say, the entrepreneur can't really grow like the business beyond their own personal growth, right? And I was really hitting up against my like scarcity abundance stuff, right? So even if I had the opportunity to finance the business in a more fruitful way to allow for that growth, I was just like, I should be able to do more with less. And I was just kind of in this like full scarcity spiral. And so I really had to double down on that for myself. And I feel like I'm not going to use that as the answer to your question because I actually feel like I've worked through a lot of that. Now it's okay, I'm laying a foundation to be open to the abundance, to what is already there. I'm in an energy of like play, have more fun with it, joy. Now it's exactly what I'm doing here, which is I've been so used to just like being behind the team, behind the scenes, like, not being the one who's sharing the message, and I shared with you in our first touch base, it's like I named this brand message because so much of what drove me to build this shoe, this exact product, and how it feels and how you wear it really came from a place of like, what was my journey to allowing myself to do that, as we've talked about, right? Like allowing the ease and joy into your life. What are the messages that we tell ourselves that drive our actions, that drive our outcomes? And like, there's just so much goodness there that wants to be rumbled with, and really starting to share like what's in my heart and what's in my mind for this world of message that I know everyone who touches it, they love it, and they, but they don't have, I haven't painted the picture of this world for them, and I haven't shared the message. So it's really like the next step is me giving myself the space and the imperative to do that, to just like put it out there and go play. But that's new
Yeah,
for me. That's new for me. Like I'm very comfortable behind the computer, or in the boardroom, but like out sharing, social, talking, podcast, like it's just that's not been my role.
and I love that you kind of brought that up, because that's something that I've been teaching and sharing a lot recently in the past couple of months here is like, okay, we know what's helped us be or achieve the success that we're currently at. And then what do we need to do? Who do we need to become next to step into that next level of success? And for many of us, yeah, it is we have to now get out, get in front, connect, communicate, play, enjoy, embrace the fun aspect of it. And then others, it's like, okay, yeah, I got to double down on my organization. I got to make sure that I'm being more proactive and things like that. But I want to bring it back here. So we've been kind of dancing over and around the concept of message, because it's more than just the product. It's like, essentially it's a philosophy. So I want to ask, like, where did you get the name, and what does it truly represent for you? Let's define that.
Yeah. Well, the name really came through what I just shared, just this idea that the messages that we tell ourselves are the most important things that we can tend to in this life. Those are our thoughts. And that's what drives, right, our feelings, our emotions, our actions, our outcomes. So it was really from that grounded place, which I think was just such a natural expression of me and where I was at in my journey when I started this brand, because I wasn't given some of the tools from my earliest days in childhood to say like, wow, I can really stand in confidence and my knowing of like, what feels good to me? What is it that what is it that I want to do in this moment? I was just living from such a conditioned place of the shoulds and the societal, input. And it's interesting because for me, it all came to a head where it was able to be represented in a product, and a product that I saw that there was a market for, because I was obsessed with slides. I used to play soccer growing up, and I was always wearing slides. And so my whole life, I always had, people would joke, like I would be the one to go to the club in like the chicest slides I could find, because I was just like, I want to be comfortable. My team would laugh at me, board meetings, I would come and I would wear heels, right? Because I thought like, I need to step it up, Meg. I got to wear my heels. And they'd be like, oh, it's a big day today. But what I realized was it meant something to me to be like, no, forget that. Like, I love my slides. I should show up to the board meeting like boss in my slides. And so actually the product like was a part of this journey. And I do think that we all know what we put on our bodies, and how we feel in our bodies, it impacts how we're showing up and how we feel about ourselves and those messages we're telling ourselves. So it was like this convergence that from the outside maybe was like, wait, Megan's on this growth path. She's talking about like doing what feels good, not what's expected. And now there's a shoe, but it's actually like, yes, exactly. Like be comfortable and be you, and I always wanted to be chic and like cute running out the door, but I didn't want to try. And that was slides for me, but nobody cared about slides. It was the afterthought. It was the rubber thing by your door or Birkenstocks. Everybody was wearing them. So I was just like, no, if I can make a better slide which to me meant feels better, sustainability, materiality, and looks better. Again, subjective, but for me, there was like minimalism. That was an attention to color, pattern, how it can come to life and actually make something of your outfit in your wardrobe. It was just like, and it all converged. And I named it Message.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. It's me, Rob, and I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. But I wanted to remind you, if you're a driven entrepreneur or an expert-based business owner who wants to get unstuck, create sustainable momentum, and really start moving forward, I've got a free resource just for you. You can download my 5 keys to clarity and momentum. It's a PDF guide. It's a quick read, and it'll help you cut through the noise, clarify your next steps, and start building the systems that you need for sustainable success. So if you're new here, or if you haven't grabbed it yet, this is the first step to applying these principles in your own journey. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/5 keys and download your free copy today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/5 keys. Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was trying to remember what, because you had mentioned a second ago that we are kind of limited by how much we can how our personal development kind of is. And I don't remember if it was like Jim Rohn maybe, or I know John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, and it's like you can only be as successful as like your lid is or the leadership is.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, because so many people build these lives that look successful but are super, super heavy.
See.
Like, why is it that we chase this expected kind of world instead of trusting ourselves into following these messages that we have?
I mean, how long do we have? It's like, right? Like, that's the question of the day. And I think the interesting piece is to pull back the layers that I found was that it wasn't even, okay, let's start with what is that societal expectation that I'm meeting and start to peel the layers back from there. It was actually, that was so buried. It was like there was so many pieces of my identity that I had built that I didn't even realize this isn't lighting me up. And I think that's the piece, right? When we certainly very dear people to me in my life, like when I look around and they've built lives and they have professional lives that arguably are like, this is goals. And like, what are goals, right? What does that actually mean to us? If it's joy, then that's different than if it's cash in the bank. And sometimes those two things meet and sometimes those two things don't. And so I think it's like, yeah, I look around and I see many people who are removed from that joy or removed from that truth. They don't know why. They don't, right? That's the hardest part. It's like getting to this is what I want. This is what feels good. Oh my gosh, Mexico is an unlock. Getting there, letting myself get there was like so many layers of the onion, right? So I think that's the tricky piece. It's like societally, it's been built on many, 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 many different fronts. What as a woman, what looks right? You start to think about marriage and motherhood, right? Like I wrote a piece actually on divorce yesterday. Like there's so many expectations of this is not the way it's supposed to look. This is not the way it's supposed to go. And I just think blowing those up all over the place is really like part of the path to finding joy, because it's like, wait, why? What? That's not true for me. But I've been adhering to that without even knowing that I'm adhering to that. And so professionally is only one vein, right? I think there's personal parts of our personal lives where we do that, but professionally, yeah, it's a tricky one. I have a girlfriend who was like, she gave the commencement speech at an Ivy League university, and now she's coming off of the typical path, and she's really grappling with like, what did she call it? She was like, she called it, she was like, oh, I was a high potential individual. right? Like just sit there. I was a high potential individual. It's like, no, dude, you are. Your day to day looks different, but that you think you're not doing the linear thing that felt safe to all of us takes you off of the, high potential individual path is so interesting. And I think many of us in our own ways are like grappling with that message.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this not too long ago too. And I feel like we have these like societal expectations of what we're told we're supposed to do. And then we also have hustle culture, because I'm always talking about burnout and all this other stuff. And I think the hustle culture kind of in a way tricks us, like, okay, you got to grind harder, you got to work harder. So then we make those sacrifices, but then we're never told the tools or the strategies to kind of calm back down. We're just given distractions like social media or like binging Netflix and things like that. And I think that
Totally.
adds layers to that onion that you were just talking about. And then where we're supposed to be digging deeper to kind of find out our authentic selves, I think we start stacking more layers up, and then we wake up and we're so far down the road, we're like, oh, there's no point. I'm too far down. I'm stuck with this pain. I'm stuck with this sadness. And
Yes.
it's crazy, but I think that's part of the reason why we get so far away from taking that risk of changing into somebody else.
100%, 100%. And it's so interesting. I'm sure you experienced this in your life to be really present with that now. I feel like just these like explosions of gratitude, because in previous versions of my life, for instance, when I would go on vacation, it was like, I can't really articulate it, but it's almost like, and I think in the hustle culture vein, you'll appreciate this. It's like I was sprinting on my toes, So it was like everything. And then I would get to a vacation. It was like, I kind of like could like stumble into it. And then it was the fanciest or the nicest, but like I had this very, very small window of ability to really appreciate it. And then it was like somersault back on my toes and sprint, you know what I mean? And now it's like being able to be on my heels. It's like I can sink my feet into that sand. And it doesn't matter where I am in the world. It's just that ability to be, and to be in presence, and to be in gratitude, and to be in stillness is like, I feel richer than I ever was, which I know sounds so cheesy and ridiculous, but like it's real. I could cry, like, and it took a lot to get there.
Well, that's perfect, because I want to ask you a cheesy question here.
Yeah.
Is so like we've all got different definitions of success, and I imagine that your definition of success is slightly different, or maybe drastically different from where you were earlier in your career.
Yeah, for sure.
How would you define it now, and what do you think the major differences are?
I mean, I think I equate success with freedom, with feeling free. And I think in the past, to your point, I probably held a similar belief, but I had a different definition of freedom. So I think I thought, right, like the
Yeah, that's
money,
good.
right? Like the money, that was okay. Like again, sprint to an end. Like there is going to be freedom on the other side of this. And now freedom has a different meaning. Freedom is what I just described. Like freedom is feeling free in the moments when I wake up, when I move through my day, being able to be in that presence. And there is an element of what I'm doing with message where we talk about and are super real about like the hardship and the strife, because it's not all like roses and rainbows. I think the thing I now am working towards is that there is a sustainable reality to like my continuing to be able to do this and have control over my own destiny with message in a sustainable way that adds, just I can't even like begin to describe the feeling of freedom that would leave me with. And I'm not there yet. I look at the financials and cash is real, and it's a both and I'm finding freedom in how I move through my days to get to the place where I know that we're going to have control over our own destiny, and it'll be a new level of freedom.
Yeah, and I love that too, because I think I think definitions do evolve and change with different seasons. And I think a lot of what we're talking about really kind of stems from awareness and kind of painting the picture of where you're at, where you're looking to get to, and just understanding a lot of these different things and creating definitions for yourselves too. And what I want to ask you is, what would you say to somebody who's currently in a position where they're stuck between comfort and this calling? So somebody else who's like trying to figure out what they need to be doing or should be doing.
Ooh, it's such a big one because it's like, I think I would really, the most important things in life, I think it's holding the both and, right? Because I would not want to bypass and say like, listen to your calling, take the leap. It's like there is a very grounded reality and conversely, a very large privilege to being able to step into, being masters of our own destiny as it relates to our professional work. And creators, and builders. And I don't take that lightly. So I think I would say, like, one, we always know. We just know. There's such a deep, deep knowing. The stillness and the pause and the listening and the work that sometimes we have to do in order to really tap into that knowing is worthwhile. So it's like if you're still really in the liminal in between, the best answer is not movement. It's the opposite. It's like stillness and listen, because you do know. And if you've tapped the knowing, but you're practically working through the pieces and the logistics, I think then it's like my best advice is, I said this to my brother-in-law who recently, he just left Amazon to build a company that Y Combinator is really excited about. And he was like, Meg, what should I recommend I do in terms of optimizing for like what this next step looks like? And I said, my recommendation is that you dive in head first, but with whatever baseline foundation that you need to put food on your table, to pay your gym membership, like whatever the base necessities are in your life. And for me, those were pretty high because I had 2 kids, and a family. So it just depends, but make sure you can care for those. And if that means, as I know you and your audience talk about a lot, like a side hustle while you're still doing one thing, or the side hustle becomes the thing you were spending more time on before and you put more time here, but you're able to then, foundationally support yourself as you build this other thing. I think there is a real grounded reality in, let's make sure that we're able to sleep at night. I think there were points where I pushed it pretty far and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, to be honest. So yeah, I think it's about, if you're truly wishy-washy between the two, take yourself to the trees, take yourself far away, journal, like whatever it is you do, dream work, like just ask for the clarity because it's there, and listen, make sure you're quiet so you can hear it. And then logistically, like take care of the minimal viable in your life so that you can go build this thing you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. That was beautifully said. And that reminds me back when I was working in strength and conditioning and personal training as well. You get people all the time trying to lose weight, build muscle, and they'd come to me and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'd be like, really? Pretty sure we all know what we need to do, but it's really comes down to just like sitting, letting ourselves listen to what it is that we actually are trying to tell ourselves. And I think that's a huge component of it. So I love the way you said it was so beautiful. And
Totally.
spot on to the T. So I'm curious though, because we're just started 2026 at the time of the recording. As we move into the year, how do you plan to bridge that gap between message being a physical product and the deeper message behind it, the philosophy itself?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is I've actually restructured a lot of the team because I think functionally I felt like, I had a great network around the Bay Area, people who know how to do the work that we need to do. And I wasn't really filtering for who is living the message, who gets this at like the cellular level where the product that we're producing, not the physical product, but how we're relaying that to people, right? All of the different channels we're engaging in. If each person who's responsible for those outputs is not actually steeped in their own version of the message, how they're moving through their journey, their path, it's not going to come through, you know? And I think I definitely, it's funny because like I can dance in a lot of realms, and I like, some people might look at me and be like, wow, your languaging is kind of woo woo, but then I'll like throw down with the private equity folks, like the best of them. And I think I was holding on to a little bit of that old, like, what? They need to understand the message. No, we need to do great work and then I'll be able to share the message. But I've really shifted that. And I'm like, no, we need people who, you know, are touching our social channels who get it, where it's not Megan's message, it becomes Krista's message, you know, and it becomes every single person who's around this and touching it. So that was the first thing. I really kind of restructured who is around this and putting more resources towards sharing the message, where we were really product marketers because we had to be, because
And, you know, I think that's, I mean, I'm not the one to like say anything, but I think that is the best way to go, because that's what you're doing, right? At the end of the day, you're not just trying to sell shoes. You're trying to get the philosophy out there. You're creating a movement, and that doesn't just happen by just overnight. That is an evolution and change, and that takes time to develop. And you don't want it just to come on hot and then just fall apart and disappear like 2 years from now. This is something that the world is going to continue to open up and be awaken up to, because that's what it really is. Yeah. So the best place to check things out is wearmessage.com, correct?
Yeah.
So wearmessage.com, go check it out. And where else can other people find you, get connected with you, or what everything else that message has to explain and stuff? For their social channels people can follow?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So follow her and Wear Message on all the channels, and make sure you stay up to date. Grab some pairs of shoes, gift them, spread the message. That's what we're looking to do here. So Meg, I want to thank you, and I want to be courteous of the time here. So I want to appreciate you taking the time to carve out, to hop on here, share the message with our audience here, and sharing your insights and a lot of your experience and stuff too. And so I really appreciate that. And before I let you go though, I've got just like one or two questions just to kind of end things off here. First one here being like, if a listener walks away from this episode with just one thing, what should that be? I love that. I love it. And Meg, that's a beautiful way to end it here. And I appreciate you again. This was powerful stuff, and love connected, love the whole concept of message and everything behind it. So thank you again. And I appreciate you taking the time. Meg, again, we'll have to have you back in the future. Thank you again. That's all for today's episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found value here, please don't forget to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from. And please create a shared success by helping us share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from today's conversation. And finally, don't forget to connect with us at survivingthesidehustle.com and give us a follow on social so that we can take part in following along in your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time, remember, success doesn't require a complete sacrifice, just strategy, momentum, and the right support.